All right, guys, we are live back here on this chilly Friday morning. If you are in Texas, just like us here today, you have maybe suffered from a winter storm, power outages, no internet. We are certainly feeling for you. As a matter of fact, I was impacted here, but that doesn't stop us from showing up here today because we brought a phenomenal guest to the show. We have our honored guest, Merri-jo, which is a wealth manifester, right? A wealth creator. And she has an incredible journey here to share with us today. And today we're going to be talking about the wealth mindset, right? Manifesting wealth, attracting wealth. And what does it take to set yourself up for success, right? It all starts in the mind. And I'm excited because we got Angeline, who is also a big believer of attracting and manifesting wealth. So I just can't imagine that this is going to be on fire here today. But I just wanted to say, if you are here watching live with us, thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are locating from. If you want to ask MerriJo or Angeline live questions on the episode today, make sure that you give Streamyard permission, okay? So we can actually see your name. And at the end, we may have some surprises for you because this show is all about giving back, right? So I hope you're ready. So MerriJo, thank you so much for joining us here today in this chilly winter morning here in Texas. How are you today?
I'm great. And thank you, Rob. Thank you, Angelina, for having me on here. I love to share my heart.
Thank you so much, Merri-jo. You know, we speak on the road together, and I'm really inspired by your story. Very successful, not just you, your kids, and they're all very successful. And I believe success leaves clue. And thank you so much for being here today. To start, would you just give our audience a little bit background about yourself and who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about?
Sure. Well, little background, born and raised in Wisconsin, very, very poor family. There were four of us, 4 kids in 3.5 years. My parents like scraping all the time. And I was the 4th one out. So, and we were all 1 year apart. So it was like really close. That caused a lot of mindset things to pop in that I didn't know. Because, you know, your environment when you're young, about probably the age of 3, you start developing concepts in your mind that end up in your, I call it your content vault, your subconscious. And so for me, part of that was if I was ever going to get anything in life, I was going to have to compete for it, you know, staring at 3 older brothers and sisters and being dirt poor. But that influenced my life hugely. A number of other things, of course, the money issue, because a lot of things happen around you in your environment around money when you're very poor. So anyway, I moved on in life and I was very competitive all the time, won everything. I mean, I was always had to be top of my class. I ran for every office. I was always president of the class, president of student council, and my other 3 siblings never ran for any office, right? So you start seeing the programming that went on for me. Clearly not genetic based, clearly not influenced by my older brothers and sisters. It was what I chose it to me. So that was great because I went on to undergrad, graduated in the top 5% or something, went on to law school, graduated Order of the Coif, which is the highest honor you can get in law school. And then I went out to NYU and got a master's in taxation because I won an all expenses paid trip in New York to go to New York City when I was in high school on team board. And of course, who won again? We noticed getting this trend, right? Competitive, yes. And so I went out. I won this all expenses paid trip to New York, and it's a fun story to tell. So I'll share it a little bit because it was the first time I ever stayed in a hotel. I mean, when you're so poor, we never stayed in a hotel. We always camped. I mean, everywhere we always went on trips. We were in Florida almost every single year, Easter break. We went to New York World's Fair, but it was always camping. So here I'm in this hotel and I'm checking in with my sponsor. You know, she was in charge of me at 16 years old. I needed somebody to be in charge of me. And this man came up and took my bag and started walking away with it. And I chased him down and started screaming at him. He was the porter. He was taking it to my room. But I didn't know what a porter was. So, I mean, Plaza Hotel, right? So I had all those fun experiences. But so when I graduated from law school, I wasn't sure I wanted to stay in Milwaukee because I had so much fun in New York City for those 3 days. So I went out to NYU and used it as an excuse to go to NYU, get a master's in taxation. And the funny part of New York for me was, as much as I love the city and all the plays I went to like every weekend, when I walked on the streets, no one would make eye contact with me. And I'm such a people person that I just knew probably within the first 3 months of being in New York City, I was not going to stay in New York City. And I still love New York. I love to visit there. I do evangelism work there. But I ended up coming back to Wisconsin, took a job at the biggest and best law firm at the time, Foley and Lardner. In fact, now they're international. They're almost in every state in the United States. And that was super. But, you know, if you're a lawyer, if you know anything about lawyering, you give away your life. I mean, I probably had Sunday afternoons off for 3 years of that. I mean, that's it. I mean, I was working till 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. I mean, you give up your life.
Yeah.
That associate in a law firm. And one of my clients came in one day. They were so thrilled because I was doing acquisition work for them. I love transactions. I love buying and selling companies. That was where my heart went, even with, you know, my tax background. And they came in, a publicly traded company, like second largest company in Wisconsin. And they came in and they said, MerriJo, we want you to come over and be our vice president general counsel.
Huh.
I was 28 years old.
Yeah. I was just wondering that.
Wow.
And this is when a time when in my law firm, there are 217 lawyers and only like 12 of us were women. So this was not a woman's era.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those
so
are
remarkable. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, I really love the law firm and the pay was good, even though they offered me more money over here. But what drove me to do it was I wanted my life back. I knew I could get back to a decent hours of work, whether it was 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. I'd at least have my Saturdays and so I took this job. Well, the job ended up being one of those jobs where I kept finding myself fighting around ethical issues. And my boss would continue to go out to New York to get a legal opinion from somebody in New York City or in Washington, D.C., because they didn't want to take my legal opinion. They never proved me wrong one time. But it was this constant challenge. And I found in that 2-year stint that if you can't control the ethics will control you.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Phenomenal lesson to learn from people. So I finally left. I walked away. I ended up moving to Texas at that time because I what appropriate time for us to have this call. I hated the snow. That's totally crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So here I am today, like in Texas with this snowstorm. Yeah. I was like, but I'm the only one that can drive, right? I mean, there are very few people can drive in this, but I do have that advantage. But the beautiful thing came to Texas and I decided entrepreneur. I mean, I felt that instinct in you. You know instinctually if you're an entrepreneur. You know you're stretching, you know you aren't meant to work for somebody else. You have that drive, whether it was at first at the law firm, then at the corporation. It was almost like I can do any, I mean, I had that, I said, MerriJo, you're very capable, you can do anything. So I ended up buying a company in San Antonio. The company actually went under. It was a turnaround situation. And the company actually went under. And that was a horrifically trying time for me because everything I had touched in my life had turned to gold. And all of a sudden something failed. So here's where mindset came in.
Yeah, interesting.
A shift for me because I went and liquidated it and I got the bank paid back. They called me up because they had projected only a 60% return on the dollar and they got 100 cents. So they tried to hire me as their vice president in charge of liquidations. And I was screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, that's got to be the worst job in the world. I said, all I want to do is help people, realize their dreams, not destroy their dreams, right? So, I mean, it was almost insulting to get that offer, right? But I went back and I was so depressed because something I touched failed. So what did I do? See what happens with your mindset. My business failed means
I fail.
I'm a failure. So what do you think will happen to you in life? Every single thing you will touch will fail. But I saw this was happening to me. I was depressed. I was staying in bed, sleeping 10 hours a day, which was never like me. And I got this incredible phone call from my uncle out of St. Louis. And he said, MerriJo, blah, blah, blah. But to isolate exactly the important words were, your business failed, you didn't fail.
That's what your uncle said to you?
You are not a failure. Your business failed. The only way you fail is if you fail to learn from the experience.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden in my life came that realization. Anything that doesn't work out for me, I look at and I go, wow. I never focus on what didn't work out. I focus on what did I learn from it And now it's been an incredibly invaluable experience. Notice the difference.
Yeah.
So if you carry that failure first, what do you think is going to happen the next thing you do?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to fail again.
Another failure, yeah.
Because it becomes a cycle. It's controlled by your mind. You know, your mind is so important for it. So anyway, so I went forward with that. I started buying in other companies. I made one of the incredible things I did. Some people, you know, some people came to me, and I was still in San Antonio, and I hung out my shingle, started practicing law again. And somebody came to me and said, MerriJo, this guy's trying to sell his company, and these guys are coming in to buy it, and they are looking for some additional cash to buy it, 100,000. Do you think you can put in 20? You get 4% of the company. And so I decided to do that because it sounded, even though it was like my last 20,000, because after my business failed, right, I was trying to get back on my feet. But I was like, this looked exciting. But I interviewed the two owners, the people that are going to become the owners, the major owners, because you always want to look at, that's the intangible in any business that you invest in. The intangible is, who are the players?
Leadership. Yeah.
Exactly. Who's in the leader? So I interviewed the guys, and I was like really surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. You know, their ethics were great. Everything was. And so I said, yeah, I'll do this. So I put that money in 20,000.
And MerriJo, real quick, an interesting question here.
Sure.
So you were in times of despair. You just had your first major failure. I imagine that affected, right, your mindset at the time, because you were on a winning streak, and here you are. You just failed, and you were probably processing what had happened. So what was the mindset like, if you can recall, back then when you had this opportunity to invest your last 20 grand, right? When you just failed, but now somebody's asking you to take a big risk here. Like, what was your mindset like back then?
Were you skeptical, or how did you get over that?
Sure. Well, why did I go and interview the men that were going to run the company? Right? I wasn't just going to, because a friend of mine who is one of my clients from my law firm, he's a bright guy running his own company, but I wasn't going to just trust him. So why did I take that extra step? Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to have more evidence of something in the capability that was really going to work. I wasn't just going to go into it blindfolded. So I took that extra step. But I had in my mind, after I changed my mindset, it doesn't matter if the 20,000 disappears, because I will always be able to go and recreate it. Wow. I mean, that's the problem with scarcity, man. That's called scarcity.
Yes.
If you don't think you can create $20,000, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Those are the people I love working with, because they're allowing their mindset to control the results they create.
So as a coach, like fast forward today, you're helping so many people, especially regarding limiting beliefs. But for the viewers watching this, right, they're following the timeline here. And that's why we always love to go back to the days before you hit success. But back then, right, if we can just replace ourselves in those times, where did you draw the power from to maintain a strong mindset and then say, okay, I'm going to interview the leadership here just to evaluate if this is a sound decision? But I imagine that internally you were drawing power and courage from somewhere. So can you talk about that process?
Well, I think that when you fail to, the power and courage obviously comes a lot from your upbringing as well. I mean, if you look back at coming from a very poor family, I knew that I knew and who knows where this again goes into your mindset and it goes into your subconscious, that I was going to make it no matter what. I mean, there's a great story about, I remember my mother making chocolate chip cookies, and she would make the cookie and then she'd take the chocolate chips out of the cupboard and put one chocolate chip in each cookie.
Wow. Because
we were so poor.
Yeah.
So MerriJo loved chocolate. So I had to eat like 20 cookies. So I was this really fat kid. And I remember distinctly at 5, 6 years old going, I will never want for chocolate. Now, that doesn't mean I make enough money to buy a bag of chocolate chips every month, right? It means that I always knew that I knew. I just took it on. I'm going to be successful because, and it's that mindset you establish early on in life.
Yeah.
That is so powerful to help you succeed. Now, there's no one else in my family. My brothers and sisters, I support most of them.
I feel like this is some kind of instinct, right? Like a DNA embedded in us, like the entrepreneurial no matter what happened in our life, failure is not an option for us. We will keep going and going.
I want to do this for you, Angeline. I don't want you to call it DNA, because then people have an excuse why they don't succeed, because they don't have the proper DNA. I believe every human being has a capacity to be successful off the charts.
Yes.
You follow me? Because it's here. It's not DNA, it's here. It's like your mind is so powerful. Remember that famous quote from Napoleon Hill: if you fail to control your mind, you may be sure you'll fail to control anything else in life.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is everybody have an opportunity to succeed, and then it all starts from the mind.
There you go. Now you've got the right language, right? Mm-hmm. And it really is, it goes back to that childhood, you know, and you do a lot of, you know, training and teaching about relationship with money. Wow, yes. Is that important? You know, you grow up in a family where your parents say money doesn't grow on trees, or a Christian family.
The root of all evil.
All evil, right? Exactly. The love of money, right? And it's not that I don't love money. I don't love money and chase it. I love money because of what I can do to spread it out. Yeah. All the charities, the millions of dollars I've given away. It's awesome what I can do with money versus if I didn't have any, because so many people are in need today, and there's so many incredible charities. Yeah. And in fact, I established my own foundation. So I have that going as well and supporting that. So it's just beautiful what you can do with it. So it's not the love of money. It's like, if you're driven by money, I'm not driven by money. I believe helping people become money attractors. So it's a natural attraction. You're like a magnet for money. Does that make sense? It's a different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So imagine today that because we encounter a lot of people in let's say the financial services industry, right? When we talk about money every day, and we have a lot of people that are at the brink of being able to make an awesome decision that moves their life forward. Yet then the mindset kicks in, which prevents them falling back into old patterns, preventing them from moving forward. Now, for people watching today, if they're currently, you know, having a challenging time with developing that strong mindset, what would be some practical ways that you may be able to share here today on the show that people can do to strengthen that mindset? Because if you're not gifted today with a strong mindset, if you haven't developed that, regardless of your background or age, but what are some of the things that we could do today to strengthen that?
Well, thanks, Rob, for asking that question, because one thing that we've proven doesn't work is reading all the books.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
If it worked, why wouldn't everybody be where I am today?
Yeah.
Does this make sense? There are millions of books out there on mindset, on money. I mean, they're everywhere. And I can talk to you about all the hundreds of people I've coached who have read like 20 of them, 30 of them. I mean, they grew up and it's all they wanted was, you know, their life is a disaster. It's not because they haven't read enough. It's because they don't understand what's stored in their subconscious mind. And so all this reading is still competing with what's in their subconscious. What was ingrained in them as a little child, or experiences they had that some of them they don't even remember. But it's that they're trapped. You follow me? And that's why I absolutely love working with people on their mindset. How do I help people understand what's stored in? I call it your content vault. You know, we talked today about everybody needs to produce content, right? Content. Well, your subconscious is your content vault.
Yeah.
Your conscious doesn't even know what's in the subconscious until it's tapped into for some event in your life. And then all of a sudden something pops up out of your subconscious, right? But you have no idea. It's like the central libraries here, and you only draw the books up when you come into an experience. So you're trapped into the same stinking thinking that you developed at a very early age, most of which you don't know.
I like your rhymes, MerriJo.
Yeah, you do good. They resonate, don't they? Well, it's good to use rhymes because people remember them. Right?
Yeah,
it's a good memory trap. But go ahead, Angeline.
So, MerriJo, so what you do is you help people tap into their subconscious mind and bring that.
Yeah, I help people go through discovery I want to, you sat down with me and did one of my classes. The first thing that we get into is, how does the subconscious mind work? Most people don't even understand that. I didn't. Here I was, and people can look back at my career and all the phenomenal success early on, and all the I have, as I say, I have more degrees than a thermometer, but I had no clue what was stuck in my subconscious. I mean, my first marriage in my 20s lasted 1.5 years. And I said to myself, I didn't know why, but I knew one thing: I was never going to get married again until I figured it out. So it was that mindset. It was inside of me, because there was something. Remember, I talked about my competitiveness.
Yes, yes.
Everyone who ever, do you know what competitiveness looks like in a marriage?
In a marriage?
That must be horrible.
I'm right. You're wrong.
Okay.
Now, can you understand how a marriage only lasts about 1.5 years if I'm always right and you're always wrong?
Yeah.
You get this? Well, that's everybody would say, MerriJo, why are you so competitive? And I would just go, well, because I was born that way, right? I was born that way.
You think you was born that way. You think you
because it's all I ever knew. It's all I ever knew.
Yeah.
But then I went through a course. This is where I did some work in my 30s, because I was never going to get married again. And a couple other things, my business failed. And I said, you know what? This mindset stuff, I'd never been exposed to it really. And I said, it sounds intriguing, maybe intellectual curiosity. So I went to a couple of classes. Oh my gosh. One of the most phenomenal things I discovered is that I wasn't born competitive. At 3-4 years old, I looked around and I had 3 older brothers and sisters, and I came to the conclusion that I had to compete in order to get anything in life. That was a decision I made and stored in my subconscious that it was buried in my content vault. I just thought that's who I was. That's all I ever knew. And so all I had to do at this conference was go, oh my gosh, I still love to win. But you know what? If you and I, as best friends, went out and played racquetball and you beat me, I could take you out for a beer. I couldn't do that for 35 years of my life. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to talk to you for a week.
Wow.
Just that course make you realize that, and then you start changing.
Yeah, and it was just one of the aha moments in that course. You follow me to uncover that, and now I'm in a 30-year marriage.
Wow. And yeah, I thank you for sharing, because I think it's a personal journey really that people can relate to. And there might be people out there watching this today that they may go through a similar journey at the moment within their relationships or within the marriage. So what you're saying is that there might be things in your life today that you may not understand them, but what you're actually saying is it's locked inside our subconscious brain that we are programmed in one way or another with certain behaviors. And the only way, and you let me know if I'm right, but the only way to get past that is to do some soul searching and understanding where these limiting beliefs or sometimes this automatic behavior, where it comes from, so you can take action to resolve them.
Rob, you're absolutely right. I say you're on autopilot. It's all you ever knew. And that's how you show up. And you keep wondering why things aren't effective for you. And it's about your relationship with money. It's about relationship with people. It's about virtually everything. I mean, it's like every aspect of your life is covered by these limiting beliefs. Just like the money concept, we can go back and look at that. What did your parents tell you? Money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that issue. Money doesn't grow on trees. So all of a sudden you tell your kids that because you want them to work hard, get a good job, blah, 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 know that you have to work to get, right? This is why we think that's a good idea, because that's what our parents and our grandparents told our parents and our great-grandparents told their grandparents. I mean, this is generational bondage.
Yeah. Generational bondage.
Okay, so the reality is you've created a scarcity relationship in your children with their relationship with money, that it's scarce. I raised my kids, and I never got pregnant. I just have 2 stepdaughters and a niece and nephew I raised. But I raised them with this idea. I said, money grows on every tree. You just need to figure out how to harvest it.
Wow.
Beautiful.
My two stepdaughters, my two stepdaughters, one's 46, 47. She's a multimillionaire. And they went in the mission field for 3 years and came out, and we talked about what they wanted to do. They got into real estate. They own Century 21 in Georgetown, Texas. And I said, you aren't going to become wealthy doing that. Invest in real estate. So they started, oh my gosh, right? Anyway, my other stepdaughter dropped out of school. She dropped out of college. Now, most parents, what do? Oh my gosh, this is a disaster, blah, blah. My husband was beside himself. I took Kate on the front porch and I said, okay, you know what? School's not for everybody. No big deal. What do you want? I said, I want you to spend the next 2-3 weeks really digging in and ask yourself, where's my passion? What do I really want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? Blah, 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 right? Blah, blah. So she came back and she said, I want to be a doula. And I said, you know what a doula is?
No.
Doula, I don't know what it is.
A doula is a woman that helps a midwife deliver babies.
Oh, right.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So you don't need a degree in it, or you don't have to pass all these certifications. You're just like a helper, right? Yeah. So she became a doula. Well, of course, after being a doula for 6-8 months, she came back. She goes, MerriJo, I'm going to be a midwife. So she went through all the midwifery treatments, and she met a very good friend on the way. And then like a year later, she goes, Gina and I want to have our own midwifery business. And I go, great. So I really supported them all through that. So they started in a little strip mall. They had a little place there. They outgrew that in about 6 months. Then they wanted to buy a farmhouse and convert it into a midwifery. So they did that. We helped do the whole thing. And then they bought another midwifery in Dallas. That they're opening their Frisco midwifery business. They have 3 midwives. They're number 1 in Dallas, Fort Worth, and now they're opening Frisco. And these kids, they just called me the other day. Go, oh, we're going to be buying $3 million worth of real estate next week.
Wow.
Wow.
So
she's 36 years old.
What I'm hearing is just that small mindset shift from the scarcity to the abundance, right? And then you give them the choice to explore the things that matters to them versus we put them in the box that they really thrive.
Right. And why do you have judgment as a parent just because your kid doesn't follow in college that because you went to college? I mean, I had more degree, as I said, in a thermometer. And here I was on the front porch saying, college isn't for everybody. Let's figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to encourage your children to be creative and believe they are in control of their future. When you start telling them that this is a disaster, you're setting their mindset that they are now a disaster.
Yeah. And go ahead, Rob.
No, I wanted to ask both of you actually, because both of you are mothers, right? You're having a responsibility over your family and you're raising kids. Yeah. So how do you both feel, and maybe start with Angeline, how do you both feel about conscious parenting? Right? Because I believe that this is not an American problem. This is actually a global problem where in all continents of the world, we are being programmed from a young age and being instilled with certain beliefs that are not our own. So maybe start with you, Angeline. Like, what is your opinion about conscious parenting, especially because your kids are still so young?
Well, I'd be open with you two here. As how to become a conscious mom is still an ongoing learning for me, because when I grew up in Asian, right, we've been put in the box. You need to do things in certain way. So right, plus I never get to grow up around my parents. I don't know what it's like, and I don't even remember what it's the hug, being hugged by my parents. What is it like? What does it feel? I don't even know, because Asian family, we don't hug each other, right? It's all by action. So that's something that I'm still learning. How do I better connect with my kids? So what I do is I communicate with them, talking to them, get into their world, not put my own belief or my thought into them, like force things to them, like become friends with them, get to understand them. Hey, what do you like? What lights you up? What do you like to do the most? Why do you just become friends? And how about you, MerriJo?
No, a lot of that is very true. And it's funny when you talked about your upbringing in the Asian world about that lack of emotional. And I said, I know exactly what you're talking about because I grew up in a German family. Okay. Really? So my parents were both from, well, they're second generation, but they, they had all that German instinct, right? There wasn't a lot of touchy-feely. There wasn't a lot of touchy-feely going on, right? And of course, they were probably going into overwhelm, being very poor, and then deciding they needed to have 4 children in 4 years, right? That was another so I went through that. But the idea of, I call conscious parenting is quit controlling your kids.
Yeah.
Child is individual and unique to themselves. And that's why, just like what I talked about, my 2 stepdaughters, one going on and graduated from college and going off and doing this, and the other one dropping out. They're unique in and of themselves. Don't make them wrong. Allow them to be self-expressive. And, there's certain times, yes, you make them wrong if they're going to ride their bike down the middle of the street in heavy traffic. You protect them from a physical perspective. But we try to manipulate them as parents on their mental side. And I'm just saying, there's a uniqueness in that child that you're drowning when you try to control that. And then they spend years in a psych hospital trying to figure out who they are because you disguised it with all of your demands and requirements you put upon them. So allow that free thought process to occur. Allow that creative instinct, even though some of it's crazy as a bed bug. It's crazy because they don't know enough right now. But if you squash that freedom of thinking at an early age, it's squashed sometimes for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So you allow the crazy thinking. You don't reprimand a 3-year-old for saying something crazy. I love to take my grandkids, like for instance, when they see something crazy, I go, wow, tell me about that. Here's MerriJo getting so excited about just this freedom of expression.
Yeah.
It's like I pour gasoline on it because I realize they're 3 years old. They're not going to go and blow up the New York world, trade towers or something. That's at 3 years old. They're thinking, and not that they have those kind of expressions, but I mean, whatever it is, sometimes we get so hyper linked to being the perfect parent. We forget about allowing that child to have the freedom of thought. Really the perfect parent. We can guide them morally and value, but we don't guide them from, their crazy thinking about what they're going to be when they grow up or blah, 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 or quash the dreams or, fireman. I go, awesome. Let's go get a fire hat, And some parents would go, oh, I want him to be a nuclear engineer because you're not going to make any money being a fireman.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's 30 years old.
Yeah, I agree with you. And MerriJo, in our community, we have a lot of upcoming young entrepreneurs and young investors start in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
What kind of tips or advice you can give that young adults, right? What kind of tips that you can give them to help them accelerate their success and help them on their journey with the mindset?
I would tell them, find a class and a course where somebody's really going to invest in you. Because now's the time.
Invest in
themselves.
themselves.
Stumble and make 10 more mistakes and you feel, oh, but my parents taught me I learned from every mistake. Well, great. At 65, you can finally hit success. Why not be successful at 25? Why be stuck? I mean, look at the pain and agony I went through. As successful as I was, a lot of things failed in my life and I was tortured by the failures. My marriage failed, a business failed, and I kept taking the wrong meanings to all of that. I kept on going back and digging in and I had problems building great relationships because I always had to be right? Remember, competitive.
Yeah.
What's competitive? I'm right, you're wrong. But Rob, you and I'd have a conversation, we disagree, and you were absolutely wrong. Today, you and I can have a discussion and we can disagree, but I can say, wow, Rob, that's interesting. I'm going to have to chew on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Total honor and respect instead of making you wrong. But see, these are things that, how long do you want to go through life being like that? If you're not open to hear, then you have no opportunity to really grow.
Yeah.
Right?
That's excellent information and advice, because I think that especially young people who are still seeking to find their identity, right? They're going through these cycles of emotion and self-discovery, but also trying to understand their own beliefs, right? Where's it coming from? But what I would like to talk about next is, so I'm here, right, surrounded by two incredible power ladies, incredibly successful, the both of you. And I know that we have a lot of entrepreneurs watching that are in the process of building their business. Some are still thinking about it, or some are already established but are looking to go to the next level. So what I'm curious about is, what is the mindset today, MerriJo, and maybe start with you. What is the mindset today in life when you have already accomplished so many things, but what is your mindset like, still moving forward, still seizing opportunities as they come to you? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I'm always open and ready. And I'm always open and ready for anything that transpires in my life. Right. So whatever comes along, I go, okay, this looks like an opportunity. So I, of course, go through my process of evaluating it. Does it fit me? Does it fit my, my character, my value system? And then bing, I'm in. And I have no problem with risk. You follow? I mean, there's so many people that go, oh my gosh, this is, and then they go back and they go, I mean, you just weigh the balances, pros, cons, and you go, okay, make a decision. We have a problem with that because so many people get so hyperplexy about one issue on it, and then they don't do it because they fear. Fear controls their life. Yeah. Fear is false expectations appearing real. That's what fear is. Okay. And I know it's an acronym, but it really controls so many people's lives. Yeah. So it's just about venturing out and doing what I can do. But, my world today, yes, I still take advantage of investments when I see them come along, because I love, we never finished that $20,000 I invested, Rob. 6 years later, I got a check for 1.1 million on a $20,000 investment. Okay? Wow. So you want to be open and ready for opportunities. When we're fearful, it's amazing how the world around you stops feeding you opportunity. Yeah. You follow? You're creating your own environment because of your fear. So you always want to be in this position of, I'm always open and ready. Mm-hmm. I evaluate it. And here's another thing young people miss. Some of them get so arrogant that they fail to surround themselves with quality people. That's a
big one.
Yeah, it's like there's this comment out there that's a quote that goes, you'll become as successful as the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I want everybody listening to this call, write on a piece of paper right now, who are the 5 people? You can take out your mom and dad and your direct family. Who are the 5 people I spend the most time with? And if you want to become the average of those 5 people, then go celebrate. But most of you will, probably 99% of you will go, wow, now that's a rude awakening. Yeah. So you want to find people that are of a level that you aspire to, because they will help raise you up.
Exactly.
So good. Yeah.
Your friends will bring you down. I'm not saying all your friends. I'm just saying those who we tend to hang out with people where we get to feel really important because they're not as great as we are. Maybe, you got this. That's another, program that runs people.
Yeah.
Because our ego gets involved. I want you to throw your ego out the window and hang around with the top people you can find that intimidate the heck out of you.
Yeah. Excellent.
Now that's where your learning ground is.
So maybe a question for Angeline here. So we talked before about programming, right? And running on autopilot, and sometimes not even being aware of those programs and beliefs. So I know that you invest a whole bunch of time into quality people and networking. And that's actually, as a matter of fact, why MerriJo's here with us today. So talk to us about the process. Do you think that hanging around or surrounding yourself with quality people will also potentially give you a new set of beliefs that empower you to move forward?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, MerriJo, right? How do I change my old programming and ongoing improving myself? It's by having good coaches and mentors like you to lead us, to help us see that things that we cannot see in ourselves, so that we can make changes. And then I also believe that having a good mentor and coach, it's very important. That's number one. And to me, I'm always looking for a way to grow, to live my human potential. So that's right on there. And then Mastermind is so important. I still remember at one time when I just get started with my business, right? I went to Tony Robbins events. Wow, those people like platinum partnership. People make a lot of money, like really stretch. You're really uncomfortable in that, but it really stretch you to grow and to the next level versus you feel comfortable around your surroundings. Yeah. Right. So know yourself with people that stretch you.
Right. It's about becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Becoming uncomfortable.
I mean, it sounds awkward, but it's absolutely bloody true.
Yeah.
Learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of that, I know you speaking a tour with me and Bill together, right?
Yeah.
So do you always have the dream to become a speaker, or you stumbling upon to become a speaker? Are you comfortable to become a speaker?
Well, the reality is I've been a speaker for, I don't know, years and years. I mean, I started, again, go back. What do you think I was doing?
Attorney?
No, even going back to, junior high and high school. I was always president of class. I was always president of council. I was always in forensics debate. I was always like on stage. So I've been speaking from stages for a long time. But what Bill's class, the one that I met you in, Angeline, was really how do you sell from stage?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to suggest we always are selling from stage. Even if we don't have a product, we're selling what our topic is, right? So it's always about how do I get my audience to really buy into this? How do I get them to understand it? And that's critically important, not just from stage, but it's everyday life. So what Bill teaches in, his entrepreneurship classes is really about how to live everyday life. Because if you want to be today, the hot topic is how do you be an influencer, right? I mean, everybody talks about being an influencer. And the only way you're going to be an influencer is knowing how to communicate properly.
Yeah.
To draw people in. So it's very critical to learn those skills, whether you're standing on stage or you're having phone calls with people, wherever you are, you want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we had more time with you. And unfortunately, we have the happy hours come to the end.
I feel we could have gone on and on because it's such a fascinating topic, and I think that everybody can feel here on the show here today, MerriJo, that you bring a tremendous amount of optimistic energy, right? And maybe that goes along with your philosophy of being ready and prepared. But we can certainly feel it. So I'm so grateful for all the wisdom here that you have been sharing with us. And I think that so many people can actually benefit from a mindset upgrade.
Sure, absolutely. In fact, I'll throw one thing in here for people. Because this is whether you've arrived. If somebody comes up to you, a friend of yours or somebody and they just look at you and they go, you know what? You're the worst person I've ever met. You are the ugliest person. You just destroy people all the time, blah, 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 and start yelling at you. If you can look at them and allow them to complete whatever they're doing, and you can say, well, thank you for your feedback.
Wow. So good.
Now you're controlling your mind.
Yeah. I can totally see that. Like being in a situation, but being composed and not lowering your self-worth, being able to hear someone else and say, thank you.
Yeah. And most importantly, Rob, it's this. Why do you give other people control over you?
Yeah.
Wow. You follow me? That's what we do so freely. I see it every day of my life. And my husband can get ugly with me sometimes. He's getting older and he can, he's not quite the same guy I married. Okay. And we go through that as we get older. But, I can look at him. I can say, thank you, honey. Oh, you get it?
Yeah. Wow.
And the importance of controlling this mind is absolutely critical. If I could get this out in the world of marriages, and I do it in my counseling, you could save millions of divorces from happening.
Incredible. So good. So I know we were just chatting backstage, and this is probably the most exciting part for our viewers out there, because the reason why we started the Entrepreneur Speaker Series is really to inspire young or entrepreneurs in general, right? We have a broad audience here, but people that are looking to take control over their life and to become really passionate about that one thing that they could see themselves doing, rather than to be boxed up in some cubicle. So we really support entrepreneurship. And I know, MerriJo, that you have been so courteous and gracious to have and bring a gift with you today. Yeah. So I would love to, if you could talk about that, yes, in how we can support the viewers out there watching this show today. How can they get in touch with MerriJo, and what is it that you brought to the show today?
Great, thanks. And I have 2 gifts today. Okay. Wow. And one of them has to do with right now, because my heart is my number 1 core value, by the way, is contribution. You probably could guess that from this call, right? Absolutely. And it's been there. And that's also a discovery process. Most people, if I ask you the question, do you know what your number 1 core value is? 99.9% of the people have no idea. They go into a quizzical look. And that's very empowering to understand that. So that's part of what I teach you, to find it, because then you know how to put a stake in the ground in your decision-making process in alignment with your number 1 core value. Yeah. That's your greatest happiness, greatest joy, greatest success in life, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so I love to help people around clarity. So my partner and I have advanced courses in mindset with a guy who's a PhD in psychology, and he was one of my mentors 30 years ago. Okay, this is how cool this guy's. Awesome, off the charts. Anyway, we're right now doing a free 3-part series on clarity. And it's about your clarity of emotions, clarity of words, and clarity of actions. Wow. And tonight's our 3rd part. But I'm going to allow all of you can go back and register and get the replays of all 3 parts. And there's also worksheets associated with that.
Excellent.
So here, and that's only 1 gift. Okay. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Second gift is I will give anyone who contacts me, and I'll give you how to do that, a free 20-minute session. So I'll work with you for 20 minutes about whatever's going on in your life. And I'll just suggest this. I've never gone for 20 minutes. It's always been an hour. So my time is my only limited asset. But you know what? My heart of contribution always overplays. Wow. My time is my only limited asset. Follow me? So let me give you how to do that. Just text the word clarity.
Okay.
CLARITY. Text clarity to 26786. And there you'll be able to sign up for the free 20-minute, I say 20-minute consults. And you'll also be able to get the link for that Mastery of Clarity to Maximize Results. That's the name of that 3-part series.
Beautiful. Cool. This is invaluable, MerriJo, and we really appreciate it. We're going to make sure that our team will distribute this information so people can actually access that. So guys, go ahead if you want to take advantage of this and connect with MerriJo and learn about creating your own clarity, right? And then even have an opportunity to work through some of those probing questions that you might have been carrying around, right? Work with MerriJo those 20 minutes. This is absolutely invaluable. So MerriJo, we're going to make certain that people will have access to that information so they can reach out. I always like to end the show with like a golden nugget, right? And I know we have been talking about a lot of valuable tips here today, but for the people watching that are currently in the process of working hard, and we were hit with the pandemic last year globally. Here right in Texas, we have so many entrepreneurs affected by the winter storm. So in times of adversity and challenge, how or what would you say is the best way for people to maintain a strong mindset? And what could you say to these people to get ahead of these adversities anyway? How do you deal with these challenges and get ahead successfully?
Great. So first thing you want to do is say this to yourself. Today is the first day of the rest of my life.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So
we live too much in our past. We worry about the pandemic. Guess what? It's almost on its process of being over. We worry about the snowstorm in Texas. Guess what? You know, the sun is going to shine and it's going to be 40 today. So we get caught up in all these concerns that drag us down. And it's all the past. But that's another reason why dealing with your mindset's so crucial, because otherwise you're going to continue to live in your past because it's still controlling you. So it's the concept of today's the first day of the rest of my life. I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it because opportunities are immense They're everywhere. You look at these people becoming multi-billion. Tesla, this guy did it in what, 2-3 years? He became the richest man. It's like, I mean, how do you do those things in 2-3 years? Because you live in America, right? The opportunities are boundless. So don't allow the environment to control you.
Wow. Wow. So good. That's amazing. And Angeline, I'm gonna leave the final words up to you here. Can you share with us something that you want our audiences watching here today to take away, you know, in 2021? What would you say to them?
Live in the present moment. That's always my mantra. This is the only moment now, here and now. This is it. This is all we got. Just like MerriJo said, today is the first day of the rest of our life. And thanks so much, MerriJo. And once again, before we go, can you tell the audience text?
Oh, text clarity, the word clarity, CLARITY, clarity to 26786.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
We got it. We got it down. So we're gonna make sure we're gonna drop the notes here, the show notes on the chat here for everybody to access. But I think this was such a valuable show here today, and I really, really want to thank our two power ladies today and our honored guest MerriJo for coming on the show. And I want to encourage you entrepreneurs watching this today to charge forward, right? To evaluate your current belief system. And if there's anything holding you back, right, rewatch this show. Take action on the lessons shared here today, because it all starts in your mind. And today's show was all about the mindset and wealth creation. So it's available to you. It's available to anyone. Just take massive action and bring that positive energy by living in the now, right? I think that probably sums it up, like it packaged that. So I hope you found this valuable here today. I hope you tune in with us next week again, or actually the next episode with another valuable guest. We're going to be announcing that shortly, but the same time, same place. And in the meantime, go and connect with MerriJo, because there's so much that she has to give. And her core value is contribution. So thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate you, and have a fantastic rest of the week.
Thank you, MerriJo. Thanks, Rob. Have an amazing week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.